You see what they deal with, Christian?
Yeah.
I'm a grump over here, just like... Yeah.
What a downer.
I'm a downer. I'm Debbie Downer.
Bad vibes.
Yeah. I get that a lot. All right, well...
Welcome to I'd Buy That for $1, a podcast about inexpensive, common, and underappreciated records that are waiting to be rediscovered. I'm your host, Sean Hartman, author of the new book, Nothing But Mammals, a history of furry fornication and popular song from Captain and Tennille to the Bloodhound Gang.
That's beautiful and disturbing.
Very good.
I'm co-host Jeremy, but you guys can call me Oklahoma Jer.
Really?
Must we?
Well, I did arrive here in Oklahoma about half an hour ago, but I don't want them to know I'm from Michigan, so you can call me Oklahoma Jer.
Okay, I see.
Okay, cool.
Got it, Oklahoma Jer.
Thank you.
I am co-host Peter Cook, and I just have to say that our guest is more clever than we are. Our guest picked an album called Hat Trick, a sports phrase.
Oh.
Yeah.
During the month that we're doing our Patreon push with the I'd Buy That for $1 All-Star team.
Wow, that's synchronicity.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not a hint. We're not about to do the Police for the next album, guys. Calm down.
And our guest here with us today, for the first time on I'd Buy That for $1, is a passionate collector of obscure records. Welcome to the program, Christian Petersen.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Excited. Yeah.
What did you bring for us today? I think Peter alluded already, but say it for the people.
I bought the album Hat Trick by the band America.
Fantastic. And what song would you like to start with?
I guess it makes sense to play the first song on the album, which is the infamous Muskrat Love.
All right. Let's hear that Muskrat Love, Side A, Track 1.
Muskrat, candlelight, doing the town and doing it right in the evening. It's pretty pleasing. Muskrat Susie, Muskrat Sam, do the jitterbug out in Muskrat Land. Shimmy, Sammy's so skinny, and they whirl and they twirl and they tangle, singing and jingling the jangle, floating like the heavens above. It looks like Muskrat Love. Says to Susie, honey, would you please be my missus? And she says yes with her kisses. And now he's tickling her fancy, rubbing her toes, muzzle to muzzle now. Anything goes as they wriggle. Sue starts to giggle. And they whirl and they twirl and they...
Did any of you happen to notice who the songwriter was of that selection?
Who's that?
It's not a name I'm familiar with.
Willis Allen Ramsey,
Yeah,
of course. The enigmatic Willis Allen Ramsey.
yeah, we brought him up a few episodes back on our Jeannie Pruitt episode because he wrote the other Satin Sheets that is not the one that she did.
Oh, right.
Oh, I missed that. I mean, I listened to the episode, but I didn't make that connection.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, I guess this was originally called Muskrat Candlelight when he did it.
Right, yeah, and his version's quite different. So it's weirder. It's really cool. But Americanized it.
Yeah, this one is not very weird, and really only if you actually focus in and think about the lyrics does it get weird. Otherwise, it's just a lot of pretty harmonies and
Yeah, and a super mellow groove. The mellowest of grooves.
yeah, Americanized.
Yeah, basically.
So this is 1973, and it's their third album.
Yeah.
So by this point, they've had some success.
You could say they've had some success. You could say maybe they had an international mega hit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they were flying high. I think on this one they decided to get a little weird, or as weird as America could possibly get, but in the canon of America, this is definitely their most experimental record, I'd say, and it didn't pay off because it was a bit of a flop, it turned out. So they never did it again.
And it still doesn't seem to be a very well remembered record. I think AllMusic gave it 2 out of 5 stars.
Oh, really?
Said that it was just generally very weak in between much better albums on either side. But having listened to this record a few times now, this is like jumping out to me more than other America I've heard. This is like the record for me.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it jumped out to me massively when I first heard it. I was only familiar with the first album, which I like a lot. But when I heard Hat Trick, I don't know. It just, like certain records do, spoke to me on some primal level.
Are you a big fan of America outside of this record?
No, not at all. I like the first one, and I think I got that first and liked it enough to buy Hat Trick when I saw it for $1, or it was probably £1 because I got it in England. It was definitely £1. And after that, I started getting the other albums, but none of them really hit in the same way. It was really only the first one and Hat Trick that do much for me. I like some of the singles, but as a album, I think, Hat Trick is the most complete statement rather than just being a collection of songs, I'd say.
So it's the America album for people who might think they don't like America.
Yeah, I always described it as the pet sounds of MOR, radio-friendly, mellow rock music, which I thought I was being really original, but while I was researching to come on the show, I watched a video of someone talking about America on YouTube, and they described it is basically exactly the same way. The pet sounds of something or other. So I was like, oh shit, I thought I was being original. But that's how I've always thought of it.
A more extreme comparison maybe would be this is America's Nebraska, as in Springsteen's Nebraska.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Not quite as dark as that, or as much of a departure, but it's darker and weirder than the rest of their material for sure, and it lacks those super catchy hits that the other records had going for them.
Yeah.
Aside from Muskrat Love, it's a nice, catchy, pleasant number to open up this interesting record.
Yeah, I've had the history collection, America's Greatest Hits, for years at this point. And I've also had a copy of Homecoming, which is the album before this one.
Right.
But yeah, I'm more apt to put on the hits collection than the album that I have.
Yeah. Interesting factoid about the Hits album is that Phil Hartman from Saturday Night Live did the drawing on the cover.
Yeah, he did a lot of album design back in the day. It's
Yeah.
before he got into the comedy world.
Yeah, it's pretty that because I love after I discovered Hat Trick, I also loved news radio about that time. So it was kind of super mind blowing when I made that connection because I really loved him in news radio.
Yeah, and you'd never think there was a connection there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think he also designed the Crosby, Stills, and Nash logo.
Yeah, I think you could be right about that. Yeah, talented.
He also did an album cover for Poco.
Yeah.
Oh,
This feels like the perfect moment to bring up an embarrassing thing about myself.
okay.
I'm here for it.
Okay, I'm ready.
I would say it was probably my mid-20s before I realized America's mega hit Horse with No Name was not, in fact, a Crosby, Stills, Nash song.
Oh wow.
When I first heard that song, it was getting it on Napster, downloading it, and it was attributed to Neil Young. When I first heard that song, just downloading a bunch of Neil Young. And for years, I thought that's who sang A Horse with No Name. And then someone told me, no, that's America. And I'd never heard of the band America. And I thought, no, you're wrong. I know that's Neil Young.
Wow.
It's kind of like how every parody song that was ever put up on Napster was credited to Weird Al.
Yeah. Yeah, that was maybe the first indication that the information on the internet wasn't always sound and fact-checked, peer-reviewed, right?
Well, from what I can tell, they were kind of dissed as a kind of lightweight Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young when they first came out. They were kind of put down in that way, which I think obviously they weren't super into.
That's valid.
Yeah. There's definitely a connection and a massive influence for them there, but
They probably didn't like being called knockoffs.
no, I'm sure they didn't. Although Horse with No Name is probably their most, even off the first album, I'd say it's the most Crosby, Stills and Nash-esque song. I don't think a lot of the other songs, I mean, obviously they're related because it's like harmonies and acoustic guitars, but I think that's the one that caused everyone to make that harsh comparison.
Yeah. Not that the early 70s lacked acoustic music with close harmonies. That was kind of the sound a lot of people were going for at that time.
Right, yeah, exactly. And America seemed very much part of that kind of West Coast kind of, mellow rock scene.
But that isn't where they come from. We should.
No.
Let's, shall we get into a little bio, fellas?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a touch. America actually originated in London, in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, where I'm from.
Yeah, I learned that very, very recently and was under the impression they were American because they
they are.
Well, they also are. It's very confusing.
Two of their dads are American with English wives, I believe. And I think the third one, I think both of his parents are American.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were the sons of Air Force. I think it was Air Force. Military men.
Yeah, all three of their fathers were in the U.S. Air Force and stationed in London. So they all grew up in London.
Yeah.
The main three fellas that are kind of the core of America, Jerry Beckley, Dewey Bunnell, and Dan Peake. They went to high school together. It was after high school, Dan came to America to give it a go at college, which didn't stick. So he ended up going back to London, and that's when they formed America and started playing music all together.
That's right. Very cool. And I kind of think that's subconsciously part of the reason why I gravitated to them, at least this album, so much, because I grew up in America but moved to England when I was 10, and so I always kind of had a very much a deep nostalgia for my time growing up in America. I guess America might have had a similar kind of thing, a nostalgia for their home country, being away from it and all. So maybe part of that was in the music, and maybe I related to that somehow. That's a theory of mine.
Yeah, there's definitely some parallels there.
Yeah, it's an interesting parallel. But I didn't find out about them being, starting in England for years after I got into this album. But then it started to click once I heard that part of the story. So yeah, and there's something kind of warm and nostalgic about the music anyway.
Yeah. Well, let's play some more of that music for the people. What song do you want to feature next?
She's Gonna Let You Down.
Very cool. And that is side A, track 3.
We're afraid she's gonna let you down, take your money and drop you to the ground. Wouldn't wanna see you messed around. After all the love you think you found, she's gonna let you down. Doesn't matter what we say, love's the stubbornest game to play. Given time, you might see it our way. We'll be sorry, boy, until that day. She's gonna break
The arrangements really stand out to me on this record. I love how on songs like that, it starts so minimal with just the piano and vocals, and then it starts to add these layers, a little bit of strings, like the drums start to pick up a little bit, and then you've got this amazing, slightly psychedelic guitar solo that comes in a little bit unexpectedly at the end. I've read so many reviews of people saying this record is boring and all sounds the same, and they didn't try very hard on the writing and arrangement, and I just don't understand what everyone else thinks they're hearing with that. Like, these songs are great.
Yeah, it's this is probably I'd say this is probably the simplest song on the album, but the flourishes they add, really enhance the inherent kind of fragility and beauty of the song itself, I think.
Yeah, this was the first time that they had employed string arrangements on an album.
Right.
It was the arranger Jim Ed Norman who handled the arrangements.
Yeah, and he did a lot with the Eagles too, I believe.
Yes.
Now, Jeremy,
Now, Sean.
You are on the record as liking it when the singing is good.
That's accurate.
How would you rate the singing on this album?
I would say, though, of course, they don't want to be compared to Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, the harmonies of both of these acts are phenomenal, and that's kind of like the basis of the whole thing in my mind. It's like they have incredible harmonies, and it's just delightfully sweet to listen to.
Yeah, it's a super mellow, relaxing trip.
It goes down nice.
Yeah. But twists and turns along the way, especially on this album. But yeah, they never really, when they get out there, like I said before, as out there as America are going to get, it still doesn't kind of detract from the vibe, the overall vibe of mellowness, I guess.
Yeah, and just those harmonies. It's
yeah.
like the core thing there, no matter what.
Yeah, definitely.
Sean,
Mm-hmm.
would you say that the proposed season 5 70s soft rock takeover is in full effect finally here on I'd Buy That for $1?
I think it's begun. I mean, I didn't want to call the shot too early here, but I happen to know we might have a couple more soft rock records in the pipeline soon. So,
wow.
And we might have put them on Jeremy.
Yeah, that's been the true long con.
Yeah.
Not only are we making the soft rock takeover happen, but we've incriminated Jeremy in the process.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, shall we jump back to the bio?
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Because America chose the name America because they didn't want people to think they were British and trying to sound American, which I guess technically they're American, but they're also had spent most of their lives in Britain to that point.
Yeah, and, they wouldn't want to, they wouldn't want people to think they were the Beatles or, hire the Beatles producer to make their records.
Oh, it goes deeper than that even. They got signed in 1971 to Kinney Records and put out their self-titled debut, which initially did not make a big splash, and then Horse with No Name came out separate from that record and was huge, and they kind of added the song back into that first self-titled record.
Right.
Yeah, so every subsequent release of their first self-titled had Horse with No Name on it.
Is that the rare expensive America record, an original pressing without Horse with No Name on it?
I would imagine.
I think I've got both versions, but they neither of the. I think they were both, in the dollar bin, the English equivalent of the dollar bin when I bought them. Maybe it's shot up in value, or maybe it will after this show. But
get that I'd buy that bump, as we call it. Yeah, America are truly, and there's no sign of this changing, a dollar bin, bargain bin band.
they very much are, which is why I have like 10 copies of this record, because every time I see one that's in really nice condition, I can't
help yourself.
Leave it in the bin. Yeah, I can't help myself.
Well, get this little nugget, though. America, after hearing Sgt. Pepper's, wanted their second album to sound like that, and their producer had to be like, guys, no. Like, stick to your acoustic thing. This is your thing. Don't go do that. So, yeah, more Beatles parallels there.
Yeah. I think probably Hat Trick is the closest they were ever going to get to Sgt. Pepper's, even with George Martin on board.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah, George Martin does not produce this album, but he produces the next 7 America albums after this
it's
one.
insane. Yeah, he ruined. They were the new Beatles in his eyes, I guess.
Yeah, he did a lot of work with them.
Isn't he involved with the Muskrat Love song on this album?
So he is, for some reason on streaming, he has like a co-credit, but I couldn't find necessarily any involvement that he had with the song, but his name is second to America's on streaming on Muskrat Love exclusively.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. He's not mentioned on the liner notes on the album.
That was probably the thing I did the most research into, trying to figure out why he gets a streaming credit. And it's inconclusive. If anyone knows, email us at idbuythatpodcast@gmail.com.
Wow, that's interesting. Maybe he re-recorded or remixed it or something at some point?
Possibly, yeah. It'd all be speculation.
Yeah.
This album, I will talk about who's on this album for sure, though. We got David Dickey on bass. Little guy you've maybe heard of, Hal Blaine on drums.
Yeah, he's been on a few things.
Yeah. Wrecking Crew member there. Henry Diltz on banjo. You got Billy Hinchy and Bruce Johnston on backing vocals, who both worked with the Beach Boys.
And Carl Wilson.
And Carl Wilson.
He's on one song, right? Carl Wilson.
Correct. Also on backing vocals.
I mean, you have Hal Blaine on drums. This is the Pet Sounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, especially Robert Margouleff does synthesizers on here. Sean,
He does.
do you know that name?
I don't know that name. Should I know that name?
You should. He's the co-founder of Tonto's Expanding Headband
Oh,
and worked with Stevie Wonder on a lot of his synth stuff.
definitely. Yeah, I know that group, but I have not memorized the names of the people behind it.
Wow. I
Wow.
thought you were a record guy.
Yeah, hanging my head in shame.
Hat-Trick came out the same year that he worked with Stevie Wonder on Innervisions, no less.
Ah, so this is basically America's Innervisions then. That's the...
Basically,
okay.
yeah,
We
it's-
figured out the comparison.
It's their Pet Sounds / Innervisions
Yeah.
/ Sgt. Pepper.
Not to build it up or anything.
No.
You got Lee Kiefer on harmonica, Chester McCracken on the congas, who played with the Doobie Brothers. Previously mentioned Jim Ed Norman on the arrangements and piano. Tom Scott on that saxophone that
Ooh.
you just hear on the one song. Got Joe Walsh on the guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another big one for me, Joe Walsh.
And finally, Laureen Yarnell on taps, which I'm guessing is like tap dancing.
Yeah, on the song suites, the title track Hat-Trick, there's some tap dancing on one of the sections of that song, I believe.
Oh, I missed that.
It's there. It's in the mix.
There's a lot going on this record.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in that one song. I mean, it's called Hat-Trick, but I think there's 4 sections to it. Weirdly.
Yeah. Shouldn't it have been 3 sections if it's a hat trick?
That's what I would have thought. But, you know.
Going back...
Well, it's Hat Trick because this is their 3rd album.
Ooh, I hadn't picked up on that. You're right, Jeremy. It's their 3rd album. They're naming things like Bob James named his albums. Like his 6th album was Touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
And all of their albums start with H after the second one.
Yeah, there's a few clever things going on with their album naming. Homecoming was named that because they moved back to LA or moved back to America before recording Homecoming. And the album after this, Holiday, was named that because they recorded it back in Britain on holiday.
On holiday.
That's cool.
And then after naming a bunch of these albums, all starting with the letter H, as Christian mentioned, the first album they did not name that. They called Silent Letter because H can be a silent letter in the English language.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's funny.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I love the specificity.
Yeah, they got layers going on.
They do.
So, yeah, as mentioned, they would then go on to produce 7 albums with Beatles producer George Martin, and more successful than this album, which did not do well commercially, but never really vaunting back to the heights of Horse with No Name.
No. And I remember when I first heard, I got the pre-George Martin albums before I heard any of the George Martin albums. I knew he'd produced them after Hat Trick. And I was really excited. I was really stoked and excited to hear those records. And I got a couple after I got the other 3. I was just really disappointed. It didn't feel like he was. It didn't feel like. I was expecting, the world, like he's really gonna turn in their Sergeant Pepper or whatever. But it's just it's still America, but less so in my eyes. I know that sounds harsh, but I just preferred them when they were producing themselves, which they did for the second and third albums. They self-produced Hat Trick.
Yeah, it seems like they got very fixated on commercial success from there.
Yeah, it does seem like that.
That's like why they brought on George Martin, because they were like, this is, the most famous producer in the world.
Yeah, they were super freaked out by Hat Trick not doing as well as the previous 2, and just got George Martin in to try and turn that around. But the albums after are fine. It's just, I love this one so much that anything probably would have been disappointing. But yeah, I was disappointed with the America meets George Martin sound. I built it up in my mind perhaps too much.
Well, yeah, and I think they continued to release great singles, but after this, they're not really an albums band, is kind of what I think you're getting at.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember what previous album we featured that was also produced by George Martin?
No, I don't even remember. No.
I'm drawing a blank.
Paul Winter Icarus.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
Which came out in 1972, and you might also remember that a few years after that album, he had written in a book that Icarus was something like the best album he had ever produced.
Wow.
Which I'm starting to think maybe that was more of an America diss than anything.
Wow.
Maybe.
Yeah.
After 7 records for America, the one for Paul Winter is the best.
Yeah.
And all the Beatles, of course.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Anytime we talk about George Martin producing an artist, that artist is going to be the one he was talking about in that quote.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, that's probably true.
Christian, what's another song you want to play?
Let's go with It's Life.
All right. That'll be side A, track 6.
A child breaks each moment of sadness for our sakes. Even trying his best to believe in, hoping this dream will come true. Sadness is only a phase for you. Try like the devil to bear your names. Anything Sadness is only a face for you. I'm trying to devil to bear anything for you. Only a moment your life can change.
All right, I'm gonna be a little controversial here.
Mm.
Oh, no.
If you don't want to be compared to Neil Young, maybe don't lift the melody from On the Way Home for your song.
Oh.
Yeah, I said it.
Wow. I'd never thought of that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that verse melody is very close to the same.
Yeah, I get it.
The acoustic guitar tone very much sounded like that of Behind Blue Eyes by The Who.
Oh, yeah. God, they're ripping everyone off. It's outrageous.
I mean, like, sort of, but I feel like that's also sort of a distillation of what America is. Like, they're deeply inspired by Americana music and folk music, and it's kind of like putting it through their lens.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the influences are clear, but every song sounds like America, I'd say.
Yeah.
Maybe The Horse with No Name, could be easily mistaken, but especially on this record, the influences are not hidden, but they make it their own ultimately, I think, and add their own flourishes. Like you'd never have some of the things you have on this record on Crosby, Stills and Nash Young record.
Yeah.
I'm feeling I have to defend it now after that bombshell.
No, when I first heard this record, which was like a week ago, that jumped out at me right away, but I'm also obsessed with Neil Young, so it's easy for me to hear.
Yeah, I'm a big Neil Young fan, but I've never made that connection. But I can kind of hear it in my head. But I'll immediately, once we're done, I'll be going to YouTube and playing them side by side. I guarantee that.
We'll get right back to our discussion on America in a minute here. But first, we want to talk to you about a special opportunity. We're talking about the Season 5 Patreon push. It's here. Woo! This is our annual fundraiser where anyone who is signed up to our Patreon by Sunday, March 31st, 2024, the year of our Lord, they will receive exclusive I'd Buy That for $1 Season 5 swag designed by artist and illustrator Ellen Vandermeide.
And it might be my favorite batch, but I might be biased as a sports guy.
Yeah. The theme for this year's design is the I'd Buy That for $1 All-Star Team. And it features 4 previously discussed musicians who are also known to have excelled in the athletics. Johnny Mathis, Tammy Wynette, Charlie Pride, and Chris Christopherson. It also features 3 people not so much known for excelling in athletics. Co-hosts Sean, Jeremy, and Peter. We're the I'd Buy That for $1 All-Star Team bench warmers.
So what do we excel in then?
Cheap records.
All right, that's good enough.
So what do people get?
Well, those signed up at the $1 early access tier by March 31st, 2024 will receive a sticker of the All-Star logo. Those at the $5 bonus episode tier will receive the sticker plus a pin of the All-Star Benchwarmers. At the $10 monthly mix tier, the sticker and pin plus a tote featuring the I'd Buy That for $1 All-Stars. And at the $25 vinyl subscription tier, patrons get all of that, plus a mug featuring both the I'd Buy That for $1 All-Stars and the Benchwarmers.
And I know I've been a little jokey on some of these Patreon pushes, but I think America is making me want to be earnest for a second and say that, we don't take any of this money for ourselves. This money funds this podcast. We have expenses related to sending out records to patrons, hosting the content and all that kind of stuff.
We've gotten into advertising on other podcasts now.
We've even gotten into advertising, trying to get the word out more. So, yeah, this money isn't going into our pockets. We're just using it to try and expand the podcast. So, we appreciate you supporting what we do. And, yeah, just know it's going to a good cause.
If you feel like supporting this good cause in exchange for a whole lot of great bonus content plus the before mentioned swag, head over to patreon.com/I'd buy that podcast and sign up before March 31st, 2024. That's patreon.com/I'd buy that podcast. You can also view the designs on our Instagram and Facebook if you're not convinced, if you need to see a little sample first.
All very good. And with that, let's get back to America.
Well, we're going to kind of skim through the rest of America's history here.
Okay.
Dan Peake, one of the three singers, he sings like the high harmonies typically, leaves the band in 1977 after he was just tired of the rock and roll lifestyle. He was tired of being on the road. He had some issues with drugs and alcohol. And he just flipped the switch and decided to embrace his Christianity and began a career in Christian music.
Which I've never heard any of it. Maybe I should check it out.
I didn't listen
Maybe
to
it's amazing.
Might be. I had seen in multiple places people describing it as like revolutionizing Christian music and like being very important to that world. But
Oh, wow.
yeah, I didn't check it out, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't either. But I will now.
Peak Christian music.
Yeah. I'm on that devilish rock and roll lifestyle, so when you jump that fence, you're dead to me.
Yeah. He gave it all up for the Lord.
Yeah. And after he leaves, rumors of a reunion with all three of them would kind of just swirl around and constantly be happening for over 30 years.
Yeah.
Until Dan passed away in 2011, which would finally quash those rumors. Though they did, Jerry sang backups on some of Dan's records, and there were, I guess, rumors that they did a tour in the early 90s that got repeated so often that everybody just thought it was true until Jerry corrected them and was like, no, that didn't happen. Stop saying.
Some Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
They should just get a hologram. Go that route.
Yeah. Maybe it's time. It's time, America.
The technology's there.
So they are still playing. They played as recently as 2023. They did a tour and have been releasing albums. I did listen to one of their albums from 2011 called Back Pages, where...
Right. Brave.
Yeah, they recorded a bunch of classic 60s songs, like from Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell, but also with like modern at the time songs like Gin Blossoms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was it good?
It is all through that America prism, I will say.
Right. I get you.
Yeah, I don't know if I was a fan of that one myself.
Yeah, I haven't gone beyond the 70s with America.
Yeah.
I think of them as the quintessential 70s band.
Very much so, I'd say.
Yeah, so they put out 18 studio albums, maybe more to come, I don't know. But they're still out there playing. You can still catch America.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, Dad,
Mm-hmm.
at this point, we turn to you with the question. that we always ask at this point in the episode.
The
If
question.
people, because it's very likely, it's very possible that people aren't going to be able to find used America records in the dollar bin. I mean, the chance is about a fraction of a percent.
Yeah. So
But
you want to
just
know
in-
what people can do when they go into their local record store and they're like, sorry, fresh out of America again.
That,
Keep
I'd buy
trying.
that. I'd buy that. For,
Sold out.
yeah, I'd buy that for $1 bump. Just the people came rushing through the doors and bought up all the America.
The whole catalog.
So we turn to you for suggested similar albums.
Okay, I got 4 albums on this list. 3 of them from 1973, and this first one from 1970, an album we have featured before, and one of the first ones that came to mind as a comparative sound. We're talking Bread on the Waters from 1970.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. We previously discussed that with Stephen Plastic Crime Wave Krakow.
Yeah, and that's, a band most famous for their light, pleasant pop hits and the harmonies, but that record has a little bit of fuzz guitar on it, some unexpected moments, and a very similar sound. So definitely check out Bread on the Waters. If you want to dive even further into the psychedelic angle, then I would recommend our dude Jimmy Spheris and his album The Original Tap Dancing Kid from 1973.
Ooh, you tied in the tap dancing element.
That's right.
Yeah.
And didn't recommend I Love You.
I mean, I Love You is pretty good if you haven't heard that one, but I celebrate the whole Jimmy Spheris catalog.
You have said that before, yes.
Yes. Just want it to be made known. Jeremy likes it when the singing is good, and I like it when the album is made by Jimmy Spheris. Next recommendation, another quintessential 70s soft rock act known for their harmonies, Seals and Crofts' Diamond Girl from 1973.
All right.
And finally, an album that we have talked about before, and another good example of a slightly darker side of an artist who is normally not thought of in that context. John Denver, Farewell Andromeda, also from 1973.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
That's right.
Also an album we've covered on the podcast.
True.
Well, that's a few good soldiers to put in your lineup for a soft rock takeover.
Yeah, hopefully you won't leave your record store empty-handed after this.
Beautiful. And Christian,
Yeah.
we turn to you to see
Hello.
what soldiers you have brought us.
yeah. What is it? As we mentioned that you're a passionate collector of obscure music. How do you celebrate this for the public to share in this with you?
I have a YouTube channel called Mystery Discs where I post generally a song a week. I tried to do more initially, but a song a week is good for me.
I actually, when I was trying to come up with my fake title for this episode, I considered, this is classic Peter, I considered making a reference to an obscure song by William Truckaway. And I was curious to see if you would pick up on it while my co-hosts were baffled as to what I was talking about. Do you know William Truckaway?
I don't think I do. Maybe I do, but remind me.
Yeah, I was gonna mention some lyrics from his song "Breakaway." I consider it like a classic lost country rock song, but then I realized that might be too esoteric, so I just thought I'd bring it up now instead.
Okay.
Way less awkward, Peter. Good job.
But you regularly post stuff on there. I think you posted something the day that we're recording this.
Yeah, posted something this morning. A weird song poem.
Are these like 45s or LPs or both? Or
They're both. I don't discriminate.
very cool.
Yeah, today's was an LP.
So once again, that is the YouTube channel Mystery Discs.
Yes, Mystery Discs for all your weird, lost, obscure, record needs.
Well, we thank you for bringing this not so obscure, but sort of lost album from America.
It is kind of. I've always said it's underrated. I don't know how many people would agree with me. I actually watched a couple of YouTube videos where people also said they felt it was underrated. So I felt a little less alone. But
There are literally dozens of us.
I've felt kind of isolated in my love for this album for probably 30 years now. So I'm used to it.
Until
Hopefully
now.
we'll bring some people on board with you.
I hope so. The more the merrier. But apparently also America don't really think it's very good either. So yeah, they're not huge fans of it.
Watch 2025. They're going to do a tour of just this album.
Oh, wow. Dream come true with a hologram.
America featuring Tupac.
Exactly.
What song, Christian, did you have selected for us to go out on?
Molten Love.
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps the mellowest song on the album of an album of mellowness. It might be the mellowest.
It's got some real tasty synthesizer bits on here as well.
Yeah, and it also, I've always thought it kind of starts, you can hear someone sucking on a bong, but I've listened to it since I known I was going to be on the program, and I've kind of second guessed that, but there's definitely sounds right at the beginning that could be mistaken for bong sounds.
I think they did that on like a couple songs on this record, but there's just like a little bit of extra intro noises before the song kicks in.
Yeah, exactly. I think for years I just thought, yeah, that's a bong, but maybe I just wanted it to be a bong.
Yeah, I like how they have Muskrat Love and Molten Love.
All the loves.
Yeah, both kinds.
Yeah,
Jesus.
the best kinds.
Perfect. Well, we will get out of here on that. Thank you for listening to I'd Buy That for $1. My name is Peter Cook.
My name is Jeremy Ruggles.
I'm Sean Hartman.
And I'm Christian Petersen.
She says kings, then he says aces. It gets pretty hard for a lady to tell the hearts from the faces. Don't be afraid, I know I will bring you home. Don't be afraid, I know I will bring you home to me. To me. I want to carry you across the threshold of fireflies and violet storms. All day long, walking in silver clouds.